I'm Lex Levy. In today's expedition, we will travel to Abu Ghorab to explore the largest and best preserved solar temple in Egypt, attributed to the Old Kingdom pharaoh Niuserre, sixth ruler of the 5th dynasty, who also has a pyramided temple complex in Abu Sir. Today, I will present you rare footage from this exceptional site, the solar temple of Niuserre, where we will examine the mysterious calcite crystal bowls in Hotep and investigate the conduit, the tube drill holes, and what remains of the obelisk. This was a part of our special and private permission access, a surprise addition to the inaugural 2023 Landichem Ancient Alchemy and Ascension Tour, led by my amazing husband, Geoffrey Drumm. Subscribe to his channel and watch his excellent episodes on Abu Ghorab, especially episode 113, where he dives deep into recent data analysis and cutting-edge archaeological technologies. If you want to help support our research and expeditions, grab some merch from the new Archaeo.alchemy store. Rock the classic logo in your favorite color combination with some beautiful alchemical prints. There are hats, mugs, hoodies, shorts, tanks, and tapestries. More designs are in the works, so stay tuned. And if you want to be the lifeblood of my channel, please become a member for early access, exclusive updates, and content. Thank you all so much. Now, back to our adventure. And now for the hieroglyph of the day, the heart, with the phonetic sound of ib, meaning love, affection, will, intention, or a literal heart. Started in ancient Egypt as the organic motor of the body, and also the seat of intelligence, and of the life spirit, the Ka. It was considered one of the 8 parts of the human body. Counter to the other organs, it had to be kept carefully intact within the mummy to ensure its eternal life. In Egyptian religion, the heart was the key to the afterlife. It was conceived as surviving death in the Duat, or netherworld, where it gave evidence for or against its possessor. It was thought that the heart was examined by Anubis and the deities during the weighing of the heart ceremony. The weighing of the heart would take place in the Duat, in which the dead were judged by Anubis, using a feather representing Ma'at, the goddess of truth and justice, responsible for maintaining order in the universe. This is a segment of the Papyrus of Ani, acquired by E.A. Wallace Budge for the British Museum in 1888. Here is an excellent example of the Ib hieroglyph that can be found on the eastern side of the central pyramid. The solar temple of Niuserre is believed to be built in honor of the Egyptian sun god Ra, and named Sesep Ib Ra, meaning joy of Ra, or Ra's favorite place. Here are hieroglyphic inscriptions, including the heart hieroglyph found near the crystal Hotep that you will see during today's expedition. Also note that there is a clear depiction of the solar temple, the colossal obelisk as it once stood. I believe that there is an esoteric meaning of the symbol in relation to electromagnetic energy. The heart is scientifically proven to generate an electromagnetic field. And these magnificent ancient sites were constructed strategically in specific locations in harmony with nature. The solar temple of Niuserre is located in the northernmost area of the site of Abu Ghorab on a natural outcrop, 600 meters to the north of the solar temple of Userkaf. This is the solar temple of Userkaf. Both solar temples are closely linked to Abu Sir, both geographically and functionally. This is Abu Sir. And here we have the pyramid and temple complex of Niuserre. Evidence suggests that there are as many as 6 solar temples that were constructed during the 5th dynasty. However, only the 2 temples previously mentioned, Niuserre and Userkaf, have been excavated. Abu Ghorab is also the site of an early dynastic necropolis dating back to the First Dynasty. The Temple of Niuserre was discovered and excavated in 3 intense seasons of fieldworks, starting in 1898 and ending in 1901, by the German archaeologist Ludwig Borchardt, who you can see here on the left. He published main results of the archaeological excavation in a masterly volume in 1905. Unfortunately, this was one of Borchardt's first projects in his archaeological career, and there were many inaccuracies in his documentation and analysis. Borchardt's work would remain the primary resource on the solar temple of Niuserre until the site was revisited by an Italian team in 2010 for archaeological investigations. In the abstract of the paper, A Virtual Reconstruction of the Sun Temple of Niuserre from Scans to ABIM, it states, the archaeological survey of the site was planned in order to re-examine the monument after its discovery in 1898. The work is mainly aimed at a general re-evaluation of the archaeological data still available on the site in order to establish a new plan of the temple. More than 100 scans and several 3D models by digital photogrammetry have been acquired. In order to make all 3D datasets for different targets available, a building information modeling project has been developed. Thanks to this new approach, currently underdeveloped in archaeology, it is possible to produce categories of environmental and technological objects which present the 3D semantic of the model. The paper deals with all the recent achievements, especially regarding the conceptualization of the architectural model. The importance of analyzing this temple is clear, particularly when considering that the temple was first discovered by Ludwig Borchardt in 1898, and since then it hasn't been investigated. Besides traditional archaeological methods and goals, however, the mission was also aimed at creating a 3D digital model of the temple by means of the laser scanning and digital photogrammetry. The construction of a 3D model and the acquisition of relevant data presents not only important technological aspects, but also gives us the possibility to compare the new survey with Borchardt's reconstruction provided in 1905. This is a general layout of the solar temple of Niuserre, done by Borchardt in 1905. The temple is architecturally structured according to a tripartite layout which is well known in the Old Kingdom Egypt and can be found in almost all the contemporary pyramid complexes. It contains a valley temple, a causeway, and an upper temple. Here is the obelisk, and here are 2 inaccuracies of Borchardt's analysis. He designates these areas as, on the eastern side, incorporating the alabaster basins, the greater slaughterhouse, and to the north, incorporating the limestone basins, the lesser slaughterhouse. I strongly disagree with Borchardt's designation, as there is no evidence to suggest that these areas or this site was used for sacrificial purposes. Here, the Italian team from the Università di Napoli La Orientale is building upon Borchardt's original plan with their newly acquired archaeological data. They are digitally reconstructing the temple piece by piece by leveraging the information they have on in situ artifacts. This is the visualization of the 3D model of Niuserre. In particular, different rebuilt blocks superimposed on the digital acquisition. Here they have rebuilt an enclosure around the Hotep and included the southern entrance and the winding corridor. This is Borchardt's reconstruction of the obelisk of the solar temple of Niuserre. This is the comparison of 2 alternative hypotheses about the height of the obelisk. This is a view of the BIM reconstructive model overlapped on a laser scanner point cloud. In this view, they've included the conduit paving and assumed that the basins are approximately in their original positions. The next few slides are beautiful 3D reconstructions by the Sun Temples Project and Patrizia Zanfagna.
انا ما كانش عندي مسار. والمسار الدكه اللي تحت خالص. تمام لان very nice. Next thing you know it's after midnight. Not good.
I don't want to be 60. I want to be like between 70 kilos.
What? You're high?
Yeah.
You must be high.
This is the solar temple of Niuserre here at Abu Ghorab. So this base that you see here was actually not a pyramid. It was a polygonal base with a large obelisk raising out of the center of the structure. You'll see here in the middle the Hotep, white calcite crystal. Here are bowls, also white calcite crystal, otherwise known as alabaster. And as we do a quick walk around the site, you'll also see some other bowls here on the right side, which are limestone, which we'll go see in just a minute, just to point out a couple differences between these artifacts. These ones have one hole drilled into the side of the bowl. And if you look here in this crag, in the corner here, there is green copper oxide still inside of the inner basin of the bowl, which implies that these bowls were originally sheathed in copper. So if you look here, this green material is green copper oxide. So we have crystal bowls, single hole, coated in copper. And as you can see, these bowls have all been moved from their original housing. So we don't know exactly where they were at this site. So they've all been moved and placed over here. So if you all follow me, we'll take a quick walk around the structure and I'll show you a few other details. This is very, very cool and a very unique opportunity. I've only had one other chance to come up here.
You know that you use this box or this open thing for the offering, the basic offering, like moon, cows, and all the offering that you like to offer in front of us.
Right, yeah. Okay, so if you all follow me. That are of particular interest. So you'll notice here, these are the original limestone paving blocks that were basically the floor of this structure. And you can see these grooves or channels that were in the limestone paving of this temple floor. You can also see here that there are some holes and basins connected into these channel systems. And you can see here that these two blocks would have originally met precisely. There's a hole and these channels here.
A similar large limestone floor block like in Saga, Peru.
So as we continue around the temple here, and you'll see this more specifically at Abu Ghorab, these were most often plated with copper. You'll see that many of them at Abu Ghorab still have the remains of green copper oxide that were embellishing the hieroglyphs that were carved into these stones. This here being red quartzite. This is not red granite. These pieces here, large chunks, are all red quartzite.
All right, let's decipher these hieroglyphs. Here we have the throne or seat, and the ib or heart, seat of the heart. Then we have Necher, meaning divine, over Nebu, meaning gold or divine. This is the golden Horus. Here we have a cartouche with Ra, User, Ir. We have User, Ir, Niuserre. Then we have gives, eternal life, and Chet, meaning everlasting.
So this kind of like marbling effect coming with the quartzite, because it's often seen as being granite, red granite that's been, you know, damaged or something in some way.
So it's a completely natural and different type of mineral. And you can tell the difference by the large particles of quartz and large stones that are in that, whereas granite has much finer particles of mineral in there. So here's the first good example that we've seen so far of later quarrying on the site. So these are quarry marks where they were pulling pieces of granite off the side of the structure, and they were quarrying them to split them and make them smaller and then take them off of the site. Over here you can see the red granite casing stones, and you can see the difference of the fine minerals here within the red granite, which are a very homogeneous mixture, whereas the red quartzite, it almost looks like it has small river stones that are embedded in the stone, which is a good way to tell the difference between the two. But the base of this structure was cased in red granite, and then we had courses of limestone and the large obelisk rising out of the center. And so here are a series of limestone bowls. And as we walk around the southeastern corner, we're going to see the original housing for these bowls. And it appears that there were 4 bowls on each corner of the structure. So northeastern, northwestern, southeastern, and southwestern corner, 4 limestone bowls, total of 16. And the ones that have the remaining edge, you'll see that there's 3 holes carved into them, which curve. These ones curve in, this one curves in, and the one in the center leads straight down into the bowl. So some of them still have the preserved edge here, and you can really see the curved shape of these holes leading in here.
Wow.
The chisel marks here look to me like something may have been removed, possibly a copper tube, and we have seen evidence of copper piping at the pyramid of Sahure in Abu Ghorab, and they removed all of that copper piping during the original archaeological investigations. This is documented that there were copper pipes at the pyramid of Sahure running through the channels that we'll see later on today. So it's certainly possible that these originally also had copper sheeting, like we saw with the calcite bowl at the front of the site. Yeah, so a little unexpected addition to the itinerary this morning. Trust me, I jump at any opportunity I get to come out to these type of sites because it's very infrequent that people get the opportunity to do so. All right, so now we're going to walk around to the north. It's actually south face of the structure. This is the north side. This is the south side. And we can take a look at the calcite crystal hotep, which I also showed in a recent video on my channel where there was microscope analysis of these crystals showing close-up scanning electron microscope images of the crystals. And the ISIDA Project also did some seismic testing when they were out here for a special permission that indicates that there may be some water movement underneath this calcite crystal hotep. And as we walk around here, you'll see more of these channels in the original paving here. Red granite casing stones still in place at the base of the structure. And then here is what's known as the hotep. We've heard this terminology before. You can see fragments here, red granite, quartzite. You'll see here in this stone a massive tubular drill hole, and the striations of the tube drill that were used to core out this section. And chemical analysis has been taken of samples of material found inside of these core drills and also in saw marks in the black basalt on the Giza Plateau, where they discovered copper oxide. But it wasn't just pure copper, it's arsenical copper. 90% copper, 10% arsenic.
Makes it harder.
Makes it much, much harder. It also makes it easier to cast the blade. So it does appear, you know, there's this conventional rhetoric that they were using copper chisels and copper tools. That's not correct. It was an amalgam. Well, technically an amalgam is with steel or mercury, but it's a combination of metals that completely changed the original property of the original metal, an alloy. So they certainly had knowledge of metallurgy to be able to create much harder blades. And they also discovered particulate material that was part of an abrasive slurry that was applied during the cutting process. And that had microfragments of corundum, which is a very, very hard mineral containing titanium dioxide, which is essentially what ruby is made out of. Ruby is corundum, and it's a very, very hard material that was used all across the ancient world as an abrasive particulate slurry. So the abrasive slurry is poured into the saw cut. The saw cut moves the abrasive slurry, and that's really what does the cutting.
I think this is an example of
And you can see here that there was
us being
a housing
carried
of
out
some sort,
beside
maybe
each other in
a
the
locking
place.
component or a door hinge. Or there are a number of different interpretations for what could have been housed in these tubular drill holes. And you'll also see, if you look around the edges of the hotep, there's one side in particular that has, here, over in this corner, you can see that a tubular drill was used in the carving process of shaping this stone. So you can see the tube drill here. And this is also how the sarcophagus, or the containers inside of these structures, were also created. So you take the rectangular piece of stone, you take your tubular drill, drill down into the container to create tubular cores. Those cores are then popped out, leaving a rough container that's been hollowed out on the inside, which can then be finished with additional tool work. There's also, if you look on this side, a pretty badass looking saw cut. There's actually two. You can see one right here and then one right there in the circular core of this hotep. So one of the questions is overcuts, right? So if this was a manually operated saw blade, an overcut of that nature would be highly unlikely, because you would just stop the cutting process. The two guys would just say, okay, whoa, time to stop. And they would stop the cutting process. So when you see large overcuts of this nature, it's indicative of some sort of machine that was used in the cutting process. They still don't know exactly what type of tools were used for these things, but they certainly had things that were known as pendulum saws in the ancient world. These saws that moved back and forth. I think they were somewhat rudimentary machines, possibly powered by water wheels that had high gear ratios. So you have one turn of your water wheel connected to a system of gears that increases the rotation of the saw blade. It's the magic of gear ratios. So if you have something with a high gear ratio, one turn on one end can create 100 turns on the other end. A very, very simple, primitive machine that could have been used to power even the core drills as well, because evidence has been shown that they had a very high rotational rate of speed that isn't necessarily consistent. Again, they imply that the dynastic Egyptians only had hand tools, and I really think there's something more to the cutting process than just hand tools. They would have had knowledge of simple machines, simple mechanics, to be able to make cuts like this. Again, those deep overcuts are kind of an indication that there was some sort of machine used.
This is the same shape we saw at the Grand Pyramid?
Correct, yeah. So you'll see this similar shape reflected when we went in the mastaba of Ptah Hotep. The Hotep, the offering, the altar area, all still looks with this similar configuration. We saw the same configuration at the bent pyramid in Dashur. Correct, yeah. Yes. Right, yeah. So one more thing I want to show remaining on this side.
What is that noise, Alexis? The camera, man? What is that noise that's for?
Oh, it's just powering it.
Oh, okay.
There was one here, and there was also one over here.
That's what I...
So 4 bowls on each corner, 16 bowls total, most of which have been removed from their original housing and placed over on the side of the structure. Just sort of an excavated cavity that was carved into the side of the structure, removing blocks, and also in search of whatever they thought might have been buried on the inside. You'll see here kind of an out of piece of black basalt, which we don't really see any other components here on the site. So that's a bit of an out of place artifact. That certainly could have been moved from another site and placed here.
Warning, no photos.
I got enough.
Over 18.
I already got like 100.
Correct, yeah, that's what I was saying, is that it might have been moved from another site. What's known as the... Yeah, so this may be modern. Which you'll also see, sort of modern pieces of practice. Something that just jumped out at me. You see these big granite blocks here? Yeah. Speculation, right? How much of this obelisk did they actually find? Right. Was a capstone ever recovered that was in the obelisk? Or were they just finding So I haven't had the opportunity to climb the center of it.
A more recent and major discovery was made by a German archaeological expedition under the direction of Friedrich Wilhelm von Bissing. They uncovered ruins of large buildings of mud bricks, that you can see here, beneath the solar temple of Niuserre. It is believed that these represent the remains of an earlier sun temple belonging to Neferkare, called the Ra-Hotep, or Ra's offering table. This shows the area of the alabaster basins, with the fine white limestone threshold of the pre-temple already discovered by Borchardt in 1901. The area of the alabaster basins, view of the pre-temple from the south. In the central part, on the right, the newly discovered column base in front of the limestone threshold. Here you can see the column base. So often is the case that temples are built upon older structures. Here's a 3D reconstruction of the entrance portico of the pre-temple. This concludes our expedition to Abu Ghorab and the solar temple of Niuserre. If you want to help support our research and expeditions, grab some merch from the new Archaeo.alchemy store. Rock the classic logo in your favorite color combination with some beautiful alchemical prints. There are hats, mugs, hoodies, shorts, tanks, and tapestries. More designs are in the works, so stay tuned. And if you want to be the lifeblood of my channel, please become a member for early access, exclusive updates, and content. Thank you all so much.